When do you start moving in the direction of the hostage negotiation?
You know, I had been trained in hostage negotiation a year before.
Okay.
And the 93 was in like the most, if you're in federal law enforcement and you're a hostage negotiator and you're working terrorism, February 19th is the first hijacking of a plane, a hijacked plane to land in the United States in 17 years. Mm-hmm. A Lufthansa plane is hijacked, lands at JFK, hijacking. Mm-hmm. That's February 19th. February 26th is the World Trade Center bombing. Mm-hmm. The problem in Waco gets started about the same time. Mm-hmm. Waco goes down April 19th. There are 2 prison sieges that occur in the United States in this time frame. And these are FBI hostage negotiation responses. We're getting wise to the guys that want to blow up 4 locations simultaneously. We arrest those guys June 24th. We turn the Southern District of New York, the federal prosecutors, link the Sheikh and the rest of the World Trade Center bombers. And we arrest the Sheikh in August. And then on September 30th, the day before my son's birthday, there's a bank robbery with hostages in a Chase Manhattan Bank in Brooklyn, which I negotiate, and the first hostage taker to surrender comes out and surrenders to me personally. That's 93.
A rough year for a kid from Iowa.
It was a rocky year.
Yeah. Okay, so now you're pretty immersed in hostage negotiating. When do you graduate to a place where you become the lead hostage negotiator?
Well, the guys at Quantico had been keeping an eye on me. I just didn't know it. That was the way that the Crisis Negotiation Unit, or CNU, at Quantico always worked. Mm-hmm. To keep a very close eye on guys and see how much initiative they had and how they did. And so through the course of the 90s, they kept track of me and kept inviting me to collaborate to see how I would respond. And then ultimately in the late 90s, the guy that was in charge of the unit just flat out said to me, "When are you coming down? When can I have you?" And there was a formal promotional process involved.
Yeah.
But it was a subject matter expert specialty. So if they recruited and trained and groomed people over a period of years, you were going to get in. And finally, at the end of the 90s, just before the Second World Trade attack, right, I had made the decision to go ahead and go to Quantico and do that full time, be a full-time hostage.
Full-time hostage.
Nothing else.
That's right.
And so I showed up there, and just before the 9/11, more terrorist incidents in places outside of South America were happening. And I had more terrorism experience than anybody else in the unit. So I got pulled into that stuff immediately.
And did you have an instinct 6 months before September 11th that it was just a matter of time before something dire was going to happen?
You know, I'm sure some people did.
Did you?
No, I did not. I was up to my eyeballs in the second of 2 kidnappings in the Philippines with a group that was affiliated with Al Qaeda.
Tell me about what would be an archetypical kidnapping.
Kidnapping is about, kidnappers grab what we used to always refer to as low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit.
They're gonna grab an American or a Westerner who gets in the way.
They're not targeting someone as much as just someone they happen to see that looks like low-hanging fruit.
Right, the best opportunity.
And they're looking for nothing more than cash, money.
Right. Kidnappers, and around wherever kidnapping exists, it's a commodities business. Mm-hmm. And they turn over inventory. They have an expectation of how long it will take them to turn over the inventory. They have a market price. The first thing we had to learn whenever we went into any country, if there was a kidnapping, you know, the trainer said there's gonna be an opening offer. It's always gonna be about the same. They're gonna have an expectation of where they're gonna settle in advance. Usually about 10% of the opening demands. And they also have an expectation of how long it will last in advance. The first thing you have to do when you get into that country is find out what the market price and what the market timing is.
Learn your market. And it sounds astounding to talk about a kidnapping like a business, but
right. I remember it was one of those times that I just went, and what have I gotten myself into?
Right. So, in your early experience, you were relatively successful at solving kidnappings, or
Yeah, I was good at it.
were there many days in which you wondered if it was worth it?
You know, there were a couple of hard days. I never wondered if it was worth it. Mm-hmm. There was, by and large, you know, our record wasn't perfect, and 98% of the people that we worked to get out got out.
Now, you had a 98% success record. 2% didn't. How did you deal with your first defeat, which I assume meant a loss of life?
Right.
Did it mean a loss of life?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was it like the first time you go home after a hard day's work, realizing you'd been unsuccessful, and that lack of success resulted in a loss of life? What was that experience like for you?
I told myself that we had to get better. I knew at the time that everything that we had done, everything that we knew how to do, and it wasn't enough. And I just said, this is not happening again. I don't care what we have to do to get better. What we had was not enough. We have to get better. This is not going to happen again.
Mm-hmm. So you now then do what in preparation for a world gone mad?
Well, since the position I was in at the FBI Academy at Quantico, for whatever reason, Quantico has a reputation of being the mecca of law enforcement, where all law enforcement knowledge resides. Mm-hmm. And it's very specific design by the FBI. And one way to get all law enforcement knowledge there is to invite everybody in the world to come there for free mm-hmm. and pay all their expenses mm-hmm. and share their knowledge.
There you go.
It's brilliant. If you pay everybody's expenses and give them room and board for 16 weeks,
there you go.
They'll come and give you their knowledge. Yeah. That's why so much of it is at the academy. Mm-hmm. So, but then I knew that since we had pretty much knew everything we knew about hostage negotiation there, and it wasn't enough, that meant I had to go outside. And that's when I started looking at business negotiation, as maybe these guys have some ideas to contribute to us.
So you are a law enforcement negotiator, an FBI hostage negotiator. You say, wait a second, what we're doing isn't working fully, it's working well, but maybe I should go into great business leaders who can teach us something to augment that which we know.
Right.
How does the FBI respond to that level of disruptive thought process?
No, I had all the support I needed.
Great.
I mean, I was in charge of my program, so pretty much if I brought in a new idea mm-hmm. and I was with a group of guys that I thought were brilliant, and we would kick the idea around and we'd go with it.
You then go to what school to learn some of the business techniques of negotiation?
Where else are you going to go? Harvard.
Some people say that's a pretty good school.